The auctioneer's voice had that particular edge it gets when he smells a sucker. $60, he called out, letting the number hang in the morning air like a joke waiting for its punchline. Going once. Going twice. Nobody moved. Nobody tried to steal it. Nobody raised a paddle or a chin. The crowd of maybe 40 people standing in the gravel lot outside a deceased estate in rural Ohio just watched the man in the third row, a quiet, heavyset guy named Dale Mercer, hold his number up without flinching. Sold, the auctioneer said, almost apologetically. The laughter came before the gavel hit the podium. It wasn't cruel laughter, exactly. It was the laughter of people who thought they were smarter than the situation. A couple of men near the back shook their heads. A woman in a canvas jacket said something to her husband that made him snort. Someone muttered the word sucker loud enough to be heard 2 rows forward. A teenage kid helping carry lots from the barn grinned at another helper and mimed throwing money in the air. Dale heard all of it. He had learned not to react, because reacting told other bidders they had gotten to you, and once people knew they could get to you, they used it. He walked to the payment table, wrote a check for $60, and tucked the receipt into his front pocket. The item in question sat on a folding table at the end of lot number 37, a steel toolbox, roughly the size of a carry-on suitcase, painted institutional grey, its lid sealed shut with 3 thick beads of weld along the front seam. The welding wasn't pretty. It was functional, the kind of work you did when you didn't want something opened easily, or when you welded it shut yourself and forgot about it for 20 years. The auctioneer had offered it as is, contents unknown, no returns. That was the part that got people. Unknown contents. Welded shut. No returns. In the logic of an auction crowd, that translated to almost certainly empty, or almost certainly not worth the mystery. Dale had a different logic. He had been going to estate auctions for 11 years. Not as a hobby, as a second income, a discipline, a method. He drove a 2009 pickup with a blanket in the back for wrapping things and a notepad on the passenger seat for writing down what he paid and what he got. He kept a spreadsheet at home. Column 1, purchase price. Column 2, sale price. Column 3, days to sell. He reviewed it every Sunday morning with coffee. He was not romantic about any of it. He bought things that other people undervalued, and he sold them at what they were actually worth. Not more. Not with inflated descriptions or wishful thinking. He had learned early that the market found its own level, and his job was simply to understand that level before the crowd did. The toolbox had caught him the moment he arrived that morning, 3 hours before the auction opened. He wrote, $80 maximum. He got it for $60. The crowd moved on to lot 38, and Dale walked over to his truck and loaded the toolbox into the bed without ceremony. A man he half recognized from other auctions, a dealer named Richie who specialized in vintage tools, watched him hoist it up. Maybe, Dale said. He drove home. Dale lived alone in a house that had belonged to his parents, which he had inherited at 42 and never quite managed to change. The kitchen had his mother's curtains. The garage had his father's workbench. That workbench was where he put the toolbox at 8:15 that night, under the good overhead fluorescent that his father had installed in 1987, and that still worked perfectly. He didn't rush. He ate dinner first. He changed out of his auction clothes. He made coffee and drank half of it standing at the sink. This was part of his process, though he wouldn't have called it that. He just didn't like to tear into things while he was still wound up from a day out. His father had been the same way. His father would come home from a full shift at the plant, eat, change, and only then go out to the garage to work on whatever he was working on. Patience wasn't a virtue in their family. It was just the way competent people operated. At 8:40, Dale put on his work glasses and got the angle grinder. The weld seams cut faster than he expected. Whoever had laid the beads had done it in a hurry. The penetration was shallow, more tack than structural. 4 minutes of work and the lid lifted free with a sound like a breath being released after a long hold. He set the grinder down. He looked inside. He stood there for a moment without moving. Then he sat down on his shop stool and looked again, more carefully, the way you look at something when you want to make sure you're seeing it correctly and not projecting what you hope to see. The box contained, packed in oil-stained cloth and fitted into foam cutouts that someone had clearly made by hand, a complete set of Starrett precision measuring tools. Micrometers, inside, outside, and depth. A set of gauge blocks in a fitted case, the kind machinists use for calibrating other instruments. 2 Starrett combination squares, one 8-inch and one 12-inch. A surface plate reference square, A set of dial test indicators still in their original cases with the original paperwork tucked in beside them. And at the bottom, nestled in a section of foam cut to fit it exactly, a vintage Starrett No. 98 Master Precision level, the long one, still in its wooden case with the brass fittings. Dale knew what Starrett tools were. Any machinist, any toolmaker, any serious hobbyist with a shop knew what Starrett tools were. They were the standard. American-made, precision-ground, built to tolerances tighter than almost any competitor. A new set of what he was looking at would have cost several $1,000s at current prices. Vintage Starrett in this condition, clean, barely used, in original cases, with paperwork, attracted a particular kind of collector and a particular kind of buyer. Professionals who wanted quality instruments and understood exactly what they were getting. He picked up one of the micrometers and turned it in his hands. The thimble moved smoothly. The lock held. The finish on the spindle was clean. Whoever had owned these tools had taken care of them, and then, for reasons Dale could not know, had sealed them inside a steel box and left them there. He opened his laptop on the workbench and spent 45 minutes on eBay, checking completed sales. Not listings, completed sales, the ones that had actually closed. He was methodical about this. He wrote numbers in his notepad. When he added them up, he put the pen down and looked at the ceiling for a moment. Conservative estimate, $2,800 to $3,400, sold individually to the right buyers, which would take a few weeks of listings and some patience. He made another coffee. He drank it standing at the workbench, looking at the tools laid out on the cloth. That was the whole story. Dale didn't feel superior about it. He felt what he always felt after an auction, a specific, quiet satisfaction that had less to do with the money than with the fact that he had been right about something other people had been wrong about. 40 people had laughed, or near enough, and he had paid $60 for $3,000 in precision tools because he had shown up early, lifted the box, and written a number in a notepad. The money was good. It would take care of 3 months of his truck payment and leave something over. But the other thing, the thing that was harder to name, was that the tools would go to people who could use them. Machinists, toolmakers, serious people with real work to do. He would clean them, photograph them, describe them accurately, and someone who needed a Starrett micrometer would buy it knowing exactly what they were getting. That felt right to him. That felt like the correct outcome. He began cleaning the first micrometer at 10 o'clock, under the good fluorescent light his father had installed in 1987, which still worked perfectly. He worked slowly and carefully, the way his father had worked on things, the way the original owner of these tools had probably worked in a shop somewhere, decades ago. There was a continuity in that, a thread through careful hands. Outside, the Ohio night was quiet. In the morning he would list the first few items. He had paid $60. He had gotten the weight right. That was enough.